In this video, what I'm going to go through is how to do a titration and also the calculations that are involved in a common titration. The one that I'm going to do is between sodium hydroxide and acetic acid and vinegar. Safety is super important, so make sure that you have your hair pulled back, you have goggles on. If you're required to wear gloves, that you put those on at this point before you start. If you don't wear gloves, make sure that if you get an acid or a base on your skin that you go wash it in the sink with copious amounts of water. Last, you want to make sure that if you have jewelry or anything that's dangling, that that's removed before you get started. Before I show you how to do a titration, let's go through a few things first. Number one, if you cleaned and filled your burette using a funnel, make sure you remove that and put that aside. In the burette goes the standard solution, or the one you're standardizing. It's called the titrant. For mine, it's sodium hydroxide that I know the concentration of. In the Erlenmeyer flask, it goes the solution you're testing or the solid you're testing. For mine, I'm going to try to find the concentration of acetic acid and vinegar. I would measure the volume of that vinegar before I start, put it into the flask. I could use a graduated cylinder that's really accurate, or a graduated pipette to measure the volume of my vinegar. Or you could have used a balance to measure a solid, maybe a solid acid. That would go in the Erlenmeyer flask, and typically you'll even add some water. The next thing is to add an indicator that's appropriate for your titration. For mine, I have a strong base, sodium hydroxide, with a weak acid, vinegar or acetic acid, and then phenolphthalein is the appropriate indicator for this titration. Last but not least, take your white paper, put it behind your burette, read the volume at eye level, record it in your data table as your initial volume. Make sure it's got 2 decimal places and then milliliters as a unit. Once you've done that, you are ready to go. When you first start your titration, make sure that you hold maybe the burette with one hand and put your other hand on the stopcock. You'll turn it to the parallel position, and the solution that is the standard or the titrant is going to be coming out through the tip. Add a little bit and stop because you don't know where the end point is. You'll see a flash of pink color, and then when you stir it, that'll go away. Try to avoid hitting the tip of the burette. Add a little bit more. And if you're going to do your first titration slowly, you won't want to go too quickly because you won't know where the end point is the first time. So you'll want to add a little bit, swirl it, and if you have a lab partner, your lab partner can swirl the Erlenmeyer flask while you are adding the base, or in this case the titrant. And you're going to continue this process until you start to see that pink color, in this case with vinegar, with phenolphthalein as your indicator, persist for a little bit longer. So once you start to see that pink color persist, you'll want to slow down. Another technique that helps when you get closer to the end point is to do a 180-degree turn on the stopcock and stop and swirl it so that you can see that that pink color is persisting longer. This will allow you to add in very small amounts of solution at a time instead of just leaving that stopcock completely open like that and maybe possibly missing the end point. As you're running your titration and you're putting more of your solution that you know the concentration of, the titrant, into the solution that you do not know the concentration of or what the identity is, the analate, make sure that you rinse down the inside of this Erlenmeyer flask with distilled water. As long as you've measured the volume of your unknown or the mass, you should be able to add distilled water anytime during this titration. Once you start to get really close to the end point, and again you'll see that by just a small amount of color persisting a lot longer, is to, instead of doing a 180, to try to allow there just to be one drop coming through the burette tip. So you'll take, and you'll usually want to hold with one hand, very slowly turn that stopcock so that you are only allowing out one drop. So again, when you want to have just one drop, you have to very carefully hold the burette with one hand, turn very slowly the stopcock with the other, so that a drop forms on the end of the burette tip like that, If you're able to suspend a drop off of that burette tip, another technique is to take your distilled water bottle and wash that drop down, and you can see that color persisting again and then going away. You know you're getting close to the end of the titration when this pink color persists longer and longer. Once that pink color persists longer, you will want to again try to add only a drop at a time. We are very close to the end of this titration. That's one drop that went in and another drop I'm going to add in through the tip of the burette. You can even touch the side like that. You'll swirl it and you can really see how long that pink color is persisting. So again, we want to go very slow at the end of the titration so that we don't miss the end point with the indicator. This is where the amount of base and acid are equal in my titration. So my moles of acid equal my moles of base due to the indicator showing a pink color at this point is telling me I'm reaching what's called the end point via the indicator, but the equivalence point based off of moles. So I believe I'm one drop away. So let me see if I can do this. There it goes. And it looks like there is one more on the tip. This should be the end point. There's that bright pink color that's persisting. Once that pink color persists for 10 seconds or more, your titration is over. You can see that my bright pink actually turned into a light pink upon standing. That's typical. Within 30 seconds to a minute, a lot of times it'll dim. This is a great endpoint for this titration between vinegar, sodium hydroxide, using phenolphthalein as the indicator. So the last step before you start to clean up is to take a piece of white paper, put it behind that burette, and read the burette at eye level and record that volume in your data table with 2 decimal places and milliliters as the unit. 2 decimal places, for example, means maybe I would record 35.45 milliliters in my data table as my final volume.